Welcome to our webinar featuring a research study we conducted on COVID-19 and changing consumer needs as businesses reopen. I'm Audrey and I'll be your MC for this presentation. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our host, DigSite. DigSite is the leading solution for agile consumer insights. With DigSite Sprints, you can recruit and engage with your target consumers in as little as 24 hours. With advanced video capabilities, DigSite is a one-stop solution for digital qualitative that can help you capture the context of consumer experiences, answer why questions, and help you quickly iterate on concepts and ideas. Now I'd like to introduce you to our speaker, Amy Alcaze. Amy is the Director of Research and Consulting Services for DigSite, and she has over 13 years of experience in consumer marketing and insights. She has worked with clients across industries that include consumer packaged goods, education, tourism, financial services, and many more. Amy has expertise in a multitude of qualitative and quantitative research methodologies and particularly enjoys creating unique and sometimes out-of-the-box research plans for clients based on their distinct objectives and resources. Now, here's Amy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for putting up with my crazy hair since I haven't gotten a haircut in 3 months, I'm sure, like many of you. I also just want to ask in advance that if we have any tech issues, someone raise their hand or leave a comment so that we can address it quickly. Obviously, with the tremendous use of Zoom nowadays, sometimes we have unstable connections, so please don't hesitate to raise that issue if it comes up. I am here today to talk to you about consumer fears and expectations as social distancing measures are loosened. So how are consumers reacting right now? What are they anticipating for the near future as we're moving out of lockdown and into a new future? We spoke to about 25 respondents, males and females, ages 21 to 60. They represented a mix of ethnicities and a mix of US regions, and they all agreed to share video with us and to let us share it with you. And we brought them into DigSite for 2 days to talk to us about changing habits and attitudes in response to COVID-19 and what they're feeling and thinking as social distancing measures are relaxed. And just to give you a little bit of a sense of the variety of people we spoke to here are some snippets from 4 respondents. We have on the top left here, we have Emma, who works at a horse stable and actually lives there as well. And she said that she's really concerned that we'll be stuck in a circle of fear. She misses going out and doing things, and she really has a hard time seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. On the upper right-hand corner here, we have Melissa, who's a stay-at-home mom at the moment because she has 4 children that she needs to homeschool, but she would like to get back to work. And you'll see her later in some of our videos talking about her concerns about a second wave of lockdowns taking place just as school is starting, which would be especially difficult for her. Going clockwise to the bottom right here, we have David L., who works in an office full-time. He's really concerned about a second wave as he looks forward. He's been able to work at home, but he does worry about sending his kids back to school in a second wave of COVID-19. And then finally, Christine G., who's on the lower left here, she talked about when is it going to be safe for her daughter to get back to daycare. And when we asked about something different that she's been engaging in as a result of COVID-19, she said, rather than telling you about hand wipes or face masks, I've been doing a lot of DIY projects. This is something that's really taken my mind off of all the craziness and given my family something to focus on. We also asked people to share pictures with us that represented something about change that's taken place as a result of their lives during lockdown and social distancing. And when we first did this a couple of months ago, almost every picture was a picture of sanitizing wipes or the home computer office or the kids at the table doing distance learning. We still got some of those, but I think you're seeing a shift now that as people have been doing this for an extended period of time, they've started to move into a new phase of life to some degree and adapting and going beyond just what are the day-to-day habits we need to undertake to keep ourselves safe during COVID-19. So we're seeing pictures now, for example, in the top left of talking about being home more and having more time to clean. The picture of the sunset where someone said, I spend a lot of time outside in my backyard. It's a way for me to find peace and calm at this time. The croissants that someone learned to make from scratch while she's at home. The puzzles that one respondent is doing as she and her family are home. And one father who shared a picture on the bottom left of his children working on the garden that they're planting. So we see people, now that they've been at this for a while, moving beyond just the hand sanitizer and the talk about distance learning and talking about different things that they're engaging in as a result of social distancing. So again, back in March when we started to talk to people, people were just, maybe a week or 2 or 3 at most into lockdown. And we asked people how they were feeling. And people said that they were feeling scared and exhausted and stressed. And we asked them what was most difficult about changing their behavior in response to COVID-19. And they kind of ticked off the specific behavioral changes that were most difficult for them to adapt to: not going out, having their kids at home and trying to still get work done, not getting to see others. So this was all relatively new, and people were really focused on sort of the mechanics of being at home and social distancing. 70 plus days later, that's about the average amount of time that our respondents have been on lockdown. Consumers are still feeling drained. They're still feeling anxious. They've also now shifted into feeling, I think, the feeling somewhat frustrated and annoyed. I think that comes from a couple of things. I think there is a feeling that not everybody is working equally at maintaining social distance. And so there's some frustration of, the social contract. Should I be staying home and being so careful and wearing my mask if not everybody else is? So there's some frustration there. There's also just frustration with this has just gone on a lot longer than a lot of us anticipated. Initially, people were talking about maybe weeks. Now we're into months. So I think there's some frustration and annoyance tied to that as well. And now when we ask people to look forward and said, what is the most difficult part of changing your behavior? As opposed to just talking about the mechanics of like, my kids are going to be home, or I'm not going to get to see people, or have to switch everything to Zoom meetings. We see people really talking about this idea of a new normal and staying the course in the long term. I think people have adjusted to the idea that behavior is not just going to snap back to what it was. And the question is, what are we going to have to do, and how difficult is it going to be? But for sure, it's not going to just flip a switch. So we see people not just talking about the mechanics of staying home, but talking about these long-term measures that are a new normal and really staying the course for a long period of time. Not surprisingly, consumers do continue to just be worried about COVID-19 and its effects, of course, as well as the extreme measures that are needed to combat COVID-19 and potentially keep us distant from each other. And so now I'm going to share some video with you of people talking themselves about their hopes and fears for the near future.
What am I most worried about? When will things be back to normal? Or will they ever be back to normal?
And it's going to change. Basically, this whole year is going to be just living in your house and not doing anything.
Definitely worried about the travel not being the same as it was before. Of certain countries not opening at the same pace and not being available to travel to for foreseeable future.
Even though things are moving the right direction, there still is a lot of but when will things be back to normal, quote unquote?
I am most worried about the county that I'm in. The numbers are, people are not taking precautions, and the numbers are tripling each day. The worst it's been. So I'm getting concerned.
Some of the things I'm kind of concerned about, obviously, second wave. I work with people that are potentially infected and then also are infected with COVID. I'm a registered nurse, so it'd be nice to not have to put on an N95 for most of my shifts.
My fears for next year is that the virus may come back, and it may come back 10 times worse.
I do fear that there will be issues with the COVID cases rising as things open back up. I do, my biggest fear is always bringing it home to my son.
That's my biggest worry right now, is that we're opening things up too soon, and that because of it, we'll end up needing to close down again.
Is people just going out and like it's normal, not maintaining a proper distance from each other, not wearing the proper protective equipment, just basically doing nothing's wrong in the world right now. It's the same. as it's always been.
My biggest fear right now, looking forward, would be, everything that's going on in the world right now. Being a mother of two boys, it's not really the best world that I would have liked for them to grow up in, but here we are. So, I'm worried about everyday life.
I guess I would say kind of just the state of our country, especially with all this, like the rioting and everything that's kind of been going on. Again, it hasn't really affected me personally, or like my family. We haven't seen anything, but it's an intense time, I guess, for our country, and hoping that changes happen and equality happens.
So as you can see, there's a lot of uncertainty right now and a lot to be worried about. People are worried about, are we going to get back to normal? When are we going to get back to normal? But are we getting back to normal too fast? What does that mean for COVID-19? What does that mean for health and safety? And then the riots of the last couple of weeks just add another measure of a feeling of instability and great change and great uncertainty. And so you can see that there's a lot of different fears and concerns sort of bubbling at the surface for consumers and their families right now. The good news is it's not all fear and worry. We did ask consumers if there were any positive changes that they've made that they'd be eager to hang on to as social distancing measures are relaxed, and they had lots. Here's just a few examples: saving money and relaxing more with family, spending more time outdoors, cooking at home, which is healthier and saves money. We heard from a lot of people, keeping up with friends, spending time on hobbies. And I think Hunter really sums it up nicely when he says it's just hard to have time to do these things in normal life. And so people have been given a lot of space and time to engage in things that are really important to them. And then Brittany also has a really nice statement here. She's talking about wanting to maintain spending time with her family at her home, keeping more communication up with family and friends, because she just didn't realize how much she let other things in life, like work, take her away from the ones she loves. So I think people are feeling that they've been stripped very bare and laid and are living a very, very simple life right now compared to the lives we often lead. And there is some real positivity to be found and some focus on what's really important to us during this time. We also asked consumers how their spending has changed in response to COVID-19, and it really is all over the map. There was no clear spending more or spending less or spending the same. It was really kind of all over. Some people say they're spending less, like Lori on the right here. She's living in New York City, and she said when you can't go out every day in New York City, you're saving loads of money. But then Robert in the bottom left-hand corner has been spending a lot of money on projects around the house. So he's been buying materials and tools. Orlando says spending less on gas, but spending more on food. So it kind of balances out. And then Likia, who you saw at the end of the last video, says that her kids are home from school and she's spending a lot to keep them educated and occupied. So there's a lot that goes into that. So it really, there was no clear more or less here. And I think it will vary a lot by whether someone lives in an urban or rural area, obviously what the family income is and how much that's been impacted by COVID-19, what the family configuration is. So there's a lot that goes into this. We also asked if consumers are placing more or less value on certain product and brand attributes at the moment. And some of this is probably not surprising, but pretty interesting. On the left, we have attributes that people say is more important to them now than it was before. And supporting the local community, being healthy, products being high quality, supporting social causes, those are all things that people are saying, or at least some of our respondents are saying, are more important to them than they were some time ago. There's been a question raised about environmental sustainability in particular, that as people are, stuck at home and they're worried about COVID-19 and they have 20 million dirty dishes to wash, is everybody just, throwing their hands up with regard to the environment, buying everything that's disposable and not focused on that? And that does not seem to be the case from what we're seeing here. We do see that some respondents are saying it's actually more important to them that products be environmentally responsible. And we saw very few respondents on the other side of the page saying that it was less important to them. So While it's not at the top of the list, like supporting the local community, which many people I think are trying to do with local purchasing, for example, it doesn't seem to be something that's just gone out the window, as some have hypothesized. On the right side of the page, we also ask people about things that are less important to them now than they were a short time ago in terms of product attributes. And things like being gourmet or being fashionable are actually somewhat less important. So at least for the moment, consumers are reporting more of a focus on substance over style. And, you know, some of this is probably just very practical. At this moment, none of us can be seen from the waist down most of the time. So if you're wearing jeans and you're not wearing the latest and greatest shoes, who's going to know? So in terms of things like fashionable, it's hard to have people in your home to show them your furnishings. It's hard to have people see what you're wearing. Some of that's probably just very practical. But some of it I think also does represent at least a temporary values shift, as again, people are really focusing on what they see as very important during a time of great upheaval and uncertainty. We asked people about online shopping. We certainly know that online shopping has gone up tremendously, particularly for staples, as people are home and worried about going to stores and shopping in person. And for sure, some people are shifting to online and that shift is going to stay, but that's not the case for everyone and for all categories. So we did see lots of different potential categories that people say they're going to keep buying online. We see Likia talking about cleaning supplies, Lori who says she's been buying hair products and toiletries, and it seems like it's less expensive. It's just so nice to have them delivered to your door. Jacqueline in the bottom right who says, I'm going to keep buying dog food online, no heavy lifting, no need to stop at the store just for dog food. So people recognizing that there's a certain amount of convenience that they get from shopping online that they hadn't thought of before coronavirus. But we also had over almost a half of respondents saying, I'm not going to change my shopping online. I either bought a lot before COVID-19 online and I'm going to keep doing so, or I bought somewhat before COVID-19 and I'm going to keep doing so. So it certainly hasn't been a complete sea change where people have just said, I'm done with in-person shopping. That's not what we're seeing. Now that's a different thing than what do people want to be doing in the near future in terms of shopping and other habits, and what do they feel safe doing in the near future. First, we asked people, as life returns to normal, what are you most eager to get back to doing? And at the top of the list, on the top left here, we see that people are especially eager to have in-person social gatherings. And I think that's not a surprise. I think the distance from other human beings, especially from extended family and friends, is something that we've heard over and over again is really the hardest part about being socially distanced. So people are very eager to get back to that. Interestingly, they're very eager to return to visiting restaurants too. That's very high on the list. Things like participating in sports and hobbies, allowing children to go to camp and school and lessons and grocery shopping. These were also, these are things that people are somewhat interested to get back to, but they definitely don't reach the level of restaurants and social gatherings. The group of activities that I have highlighted here in a blue box on the top right, what we're seeing in all of these is net votes. So this is the net of the positive and the negative. And what you can see here is the net numbers are 0 or very close. And so that means that these are activities that are very polarizing. Almost an exact same number of people said, I'm eager to get back to it, as not eager to get back to it. So things like shopping for clothes in person, doing other shopping in person, going to concerts or sporting events, we really have those as quite polarizing, with some people saying, yes, can't wait to get back, and basically an equal number saying, no, that's just not tops on my priority list. And then at the bottom here, we see the items that are people are least eager to get back to, and the one that just is kind of head and shoulders above the others is taking public transportation. People are just not eager to do that. Whether that's because of the experience of taking public transportation in this country or in their particular city or state, or just because of the fear of the virus spreading in public transportation, we don't know. But that is one that people are saying, not looking to get back to that anytime soon. We then ask people, okay, we now know what you're most eager to get back to. Which ones do you feel safest about in the near future? And there really aren't too many things that people feel safe about. And the highest number of net votes we got was 10. So You're just not seeing anything where a majority of respondents are really saying, yes, I feel safe about this. And the number one thing on top of the list in terms of feeling safe is grocery shopping in person. And I'm going to hazard a guess that people feel safe doing this because they've just simply had to do it and had to adapt to doing it by wearing masks, by socially distancing in the store. And grocery stores have stayed open all this time and they've had to adapt as well. So people feel like this is a little bit more of a known quantity as well as something that just has to get done. If you look on the right side of the page here, a lot of negatives, a lot of net negative votes here. People just not comfortable with staying in hotels, going to the gym, going to concerts and sporting events, even though some of them would really like to, allowing children to attend group settings, traveling, and again, taking public transportation. So people just aren't ready yet to really feel safe with a lot of activities that pre-coronavirus were, of course, just a part of our everyday lives. You know, part of that fear is that consumer trust in businesses and public spaces' ability to keep them safe is really moderate at best. If we look to the bottom of the page here for a moment first, we asked people to what degree they trust stores and restaurants and other businesses to do what's necessary to keep them safe and manage risks during coronavirus. We see that the majority of people are really in the middle. We get on a scale of 1 to 5, we get a mean right around 3. So people are not jumping up and down saying, yes, yes, I trust businesses to keep me safe, and I have no doubt that they're up to the task. There's a mix, but people are really kind of on the fence about a lot of this. And we do see that people have pretty high expectations for what they expect public spaces and businesses to do to keep them safe. So you can see Daniel on the left here says, limit the number of shoppers, sanitizing carts and other high touch points, staff has to wear masks and requiring shoppers to wear masks. We have Graham here saying not packing people tightly, minimizing physical contact, taking temperatures of all people who walk in, masks and gloves for workers, regular disinfecting. So for the most part, expectations of what it will take to keep people safe are quite high. And it seems that at this point, the jury is still out on whether consumers think the majority of businesses can or will undertake these measures. We did ask them if there are businesses that they feel have already been doing a good job of this, and there are some, and they're winning consumer trust because of the very proactive responses they've had to coronavirus. Chandel here on the left says, a brand like Target has always shown me that safety and health is their top concern. I've been into Target since COVID, and they've been so organized and helpful. We had a couple of people mention Trader Joe's, saying that they've taken extra precautions, limiting capacity in stores, ensuring social distancing, encouraging wearing of masks and gloves, and sanitizing carts. We heard a couple of people also say that they trust small businesses more than large stores. They feel like the small businesses care more, they have their own families, they have a smaller space to disinfect, and so there's just more of an emphasis on doing what needs to be done for the community because they're more a part of it. And then we have Orlando here on the left who mentioned Costco, which I know has been a big part of a lot of shopping and stocking up during coronavirus time, saying that he saw them as being among the first to implement changes to prevent getting COVID on their property and in their stores. So we do see that consumers are saying that they do feel there are some businesses that have done an especially good job. Not surprisingly, a lot of these businesses represent staple purchases because those are the things people have been going out and buying during this time, and those are the stores that have stayed open. Other businesses, however, risk losing or may have already lost loyalty and trust, either because of the nature of the business and how hard it will be to adapt to a potential new normal for the long term, or because of their actual responses so far. A couple of people did call out Walmart, saying, you know, in this case, their aisles are supposed to go in one direction, but I don't see it enforced. And others saying that they just haven't been as rigorous about measures as some other grocery and big box stores have been. You see David here saying hairstyling and childcare, like, I just don't see how they can do enough to be safe. I don't think they're doing enough, and I don't see how they can do enough to make these things safe in the near future. Not surprisingly, opinions differ on the same retailer to some degree. So while you had Orlando on the last slide saying Costco's done a great job, Robert P says, I don't like Costco because they're requiring masks, and I don't feel that I should have to wear a mask. And William B similarly said, craft stores like Michael's and Joann's won't let consumers in without masks. And that's a turnoff for me. I think it's up to them to sanitize their stores. I'll say that the majority of consumers that we spoke with were in favor of masks, in favor of at least recommending masks for consumers and requiring masks for staff. But there were a few who called out this issue of feeling like it should be personal choice whether they need to wear a mask or not when shopping in a public establishment, and feeling turned off by companies or businesses that require a mask. That is, it seemed to be a small faction, but a vocal faction that really found this to be a big turnoff. So looking forward, there are, consumers do have real and specific hopes and aspirations for the near future, but I would say that those hopes and aspirations do reflect the kind of limbo state and uncertain times we're in. And again, I'm gonna play a video for you so you can hear in their own voices what their hopes and aspirations are for the near term.
One easy hope and aspiration for this summer is spending as much time outside as possible. Just with all the COVID stuff going on, it can be tough, being inside day after day and not seeing a ton of people. So I think being outside is just going to be good for the soul.
Another hope that I have is to get back in the same shape that I was before this whole pandemic. It's been really rough with the gym being closed.
Being able to go out to the movies and do things with my friends and hang out with family without worrying about anything.
Going out to restaurants and concerts and sporting events.
That's what we're looking forward to, mostly just to get back to racing and doing the things we like to do and be able to travel. We travel to races and travel around different areas and playing basketball, traveling, and it's fun. We enjoy going different places, eating out and hanging out with our friends.
I'm looking forward to my kids being able to go back to school.
Next year, as far as next year for my hopes and aspirations, I'm looking to have hopefully bought a house. My home buying process was pushed back due to COVID.
I'm most excited about I'm going back to college. I was going back to college, and I'm most excited about getting back on that track.
So my hopes and aspirations, I think it's really me being able to get my art studio off the ground. There's a lot of work that I've put into it. There's a lot of work that I still need to put into it, but I hope that, my art will touch hearts and minds, around the world.
I am most excited about traveling to start again. My husband and I both just graduated with our master's degrees, and we wanted to take a vacation and celebrate, but we haven't been able to do that.
I just had a son in January, and to be honest, with everything that's been happening lately, it's pretty sad and pretty scary to be bringing a human into this world. But I hope to see that he can grow up in a world that has a little bit of normal in it, and that it's not pure chaos all the time, and that it's not pure divide all the time. And I hope that we can all come together.
I'm most excited about for when people are feeling safe and able to resume some normal activities.
So what I'm most hoping to get ready back to, looking forward to, is to get back to normal.
My hopes or aspirations in the next year, just to get my life back together, try to make things normal again.
Getting back to life as normal.
I just hope everybody comes together and everyone follows the rules, and we hopefully we find a vaccine pretty soon. But I think everything's going to turn out okay.
Wanted to end on a bit of a positive note there. I appreciate this respondent letting us know that everything's going to be okay. I think that's David. So you see, a lot of what people are hoping for is just some sense of normalcy. I mean, that's probably the theme that came up most of all. And a lot of that sense of normalcy is just little things. Looking forward to going to my kids' bike races, playing basketball, seeing friends, going outside. A lot of it's just very simple things. And then you also see that there are some people who, have not let COVID-19 stop them from having pretty big aspirations for the near future, buying homes, starting businesses, going back to college, taking trips. So I don't think people have entirely put the big things on hold, but I do think a lot of what we're seeing is pretty measured expectations for the near future because of the uncertainty that we're facing. And a lot of hopes, again, for just returning to some semblance of normal, though I think a lot of people don't know exactly what that's going to look like. So summing up this portion of our presentation, some key findings. One is consumers have really been in social distancing long enough now to move from kind of a like sit and wait to try something new. And a lot of that has to do with the positive behaviors they mentioned adopting and wanting to maintain, and those pictures I showed you of planting gardens and making croissants. And people have, you know, have tried to find proactive and positive ways to use this time. And so I think the implication and the question for all of you is how can you either facilitate or at least support and celebrate these changes? And some examples of businesses that have been doing that are lots of cooking schools that are offering free online cooking classes. I saw that King Arthur Flour, who had such a run on their flour that there was a waiting list that ultimately had to be shut down, actually came out with, they found a co-packer to create a new size and a new type of bag. I guess the paper bags that they put their flour in is tough to find factories that can do. So they found a co-packer who could put their flour in new bags in a new size, a different type of bag, but it allowed them to get back on shelves sooner because so many people are baking. So that's a couple of examples of businesses that have tapped into people's current activities and mindsets. But despite the fact that, you know, people are trying to make the best of this time, those feelings that we mentioned of stress and exhaustion and annoyance, they're still there. It's still hard. People are on high alert in terms of health and safety. They worry about work and money. And of course, they've had to give up many aspects of their normal daily lives. So I think we can expect to see consumers seeking, you know, entertainment and connection in socially distanced ways, even as they begin to open up and do other things as well. I think they will still be seeking out small sources of delight to kind of break up the monotony. And I think many will be careful about how and where they're spending their money, and maybe again, emphasizing some of that substance over style. And examples of, you know, businesses or products that, that respond to these needs are social apps like Together and Netflix Party that let people engage socially while still distanced. I don't know if anybody's seen the MasterCard Start Something Priceless ad with the dogs, but they talk about, you know, now that we're at home, for a lot of people, their coworkers are their pets. And it's this very kind of fun, light take on life right now, showing lots of videos of people working from home with their pets. And it also gives MasterCard an opportunity to talk about the security measures that they offer if you're buying things online and stuck at home right now. And something like car insurance give back programs, all these car insurance companies that have said, while you're not driving, we're going to drop your premiums, or we're going to give you some money back as a thank you for staying loyal to us. Another takeaway is that consumers have only moderate trust in public spaces and in businesses to do what they think needs to be done to keep them safe in the near term. So I think it's pretty clear that for most consumers, if not, maybe not all, but for many, businesses are going to need to go above and beyond minimum safety standards to win consumer trust. They're going to need to do more than just, you know, be wiping down the counters. It's just not going to be enough. And I think we can also expect that some in-person activities, they're going to be slow for people to return to. There's just a lot of nervousness. And if it doesn't have to be done, or it doesn't provide a great amount of joy, people may not be running back to it. So examples, I think, of companies that have really risen to the challenge are grocery stores. They've had the most time, I think, to adapt, and their distancing and safety measures people are clearly coming to have some trust in. And then the ongoing shift to various touchless and touch-free or one-touch transactions, so that people don't have to be face-to-face and can do things from their phone or can do things in a distanced way, whether that's food delivery or getting gas at the gas pump or whatever that might be. Those are examples of companies that are rising to the challenge. Another key finding is, as we've talked about, consumers seeming to be, at least for the moment, somewhat emphasizing substance over style, that they're putting more emphasis when they buy things on attributes like supporting local businesses and local communities, being healthy, being high quality, and focusing less on things like gourmet and fashionable as key attributes. So I think it's important to think about meaningful ways that you can show your company or your business's commitment to social responsibility at the community level. And I think for a little while at least, we can expect an ongoing emphasis on function over form, and on substance over style. Some examples of companies that I think are trying to show how they are connected at the community level. Uber giving free rides to frontline medical workers, Orgain Nutrition Company giving free shakes to frontline medical workers that can be nominated by others through their Shakes for Heroes program. And then, an example of literal choosing, choosing maybe substance over style is the contraction of the fashion industry at the moment. It's just not where people's minds are at, and there may be some categories that it's going to take a while for people to return to focusing on. And then finally, the social distancing that we've all been experiencing over the last few months, combined with a lot of uncertainty about the future, has really tempered expectations for the near future. People do have hopes and aspirations, and some of them are big, but a lot of them are very small and just have to do with getting to see friends again, maybe getting kids back into school a couple days a week, maybe going out to eat, sitting outside, and maybe eating off a paper plate. People are still fearful. There's a lot of unknown about whether there'll be additional waves of COVID-19 and what kind of measures we'll need to adopt for a long term to manage this. So while I think there's a lot of pent-up demand for products and services that are limited by social distancing, I think consumers really want to eat out, to travel, to take their kids to theme parks, to buy big ticket items. I just think that a lot of the unknown that we're still experiencing is going to keep dampening that demand for a little while, until people either see that there is a light ahead, or just feel safer, or just get used to life as it is, as we're starting to kind of crawl out of our holes. And I think a really big example, or good example of this sort of limbo state that we're in, is amusement park reopenings like Disney and Universal. They've taken a lot of measures. They've made a lot of news about reopening, I believe just earlier this week. But so far, the turnout isn't there, and it'll remain to be seen, whether that will pick up over time. So that is the end of the COVID-19 portion of our presentation. We also just have some quick tips on conducting qualitative research during this time. If you've been to some of our other COVID-19 presentations, this will be familiar to you. It's going to be very quick. I'm going to zip through it. So if you want to stay for the Q&A portion, this should take a few minutes and then we can get on to Q&A. But if you don't have questions and you've seen this before, this might, you might want to drop off. This is this might be familiar to you. So in terms of tips that we have for conducting research at this time, remote qualitative does offer some real benefits right now. Really high quality participants, really thoroughly screened, giving us deep and rich feedback. It gives us the opportunity to kind of show our empathy and understanding as we interact with them via online message, via video. We can be very iterative, and we're finding that we are doing a lot of that right now. We're maybe asking people to give us feedback on something for a couple of days, going away with a client and digesting that and coming back either with new stimuli or new thoughts, and really kind of changing in real time, especially right now as people's plans and expectations are changing in real time. It allows for pretty fast and flexible reporting. DigSite in particular has real-time reporting where you can see results coming in real time all the time, and then also more detailed analytical reporting that can be turned around within a few days of a study. And it's very efficient. We can bring in a larger sample size in a shorter amount of time than something like a traditional focus group, even if it's done in a video setting. So it does offer, at this time in particular, a lot of efficiency. The biggest question we get is, are participants engaging in research right now? It's such a crazy time. And the answer is yes, and actually we're maybe even seeing greater levels of participation than we had before. I think people are a little bored. I think they're a little lonely. I think they want to express their opinions. I think they want a social outlet. I think they're just open to trying new things while they're stuck at home. So we're seeing really high interest and participation, both in B2B and B2C, including medical professionals, which is perhaps counterintuitive, but it is what we're seeing. Very high show rates, and really high levels of engagement and creativity. We're giving people creative exercises and seeing them really go above and beyond in their answers. And again, I think it's just, people have time on their hands and they're interested in being heard, and they're interested in having an outlet right now. What are we doing differently in the way we're engaging with respondents? I mean, it is a different time. And so we are being different. We're trying to show increased empathy in the way we moderate. We reference the fact that these are strange times, that we know people are home more often, more than they would be normally. We're very patient when we have, for example, one-on-one interviews. Kids are coming in and out of the spaces. Pets are coming in and out of the spaces. There are distractions. There is a little bit of background noise. We try to minimize it, but that's just part of life right now. And so that's something that we accept as part of the cost of doing business with people while they're at home and working from small spaces. We're also asking, as a result of that, for shorter video time commitments. We're maybe just asking them to speak to us for 20 or 30 minutes instead of for an hour or 2 hours. And as I mentioned earlier, we're doing more iteration and doing a mix of online and of live and not live interactions, so people can log in when it's convenient for them to respond to some of our questions rather than necessarily having to do it face-to-face at a set time. And of course, we're making sure that any activities that might require people to be out of their homes abide by government mandates and guidelines. So at this particular time, we haven't seen a lot of demand for example, for shop-alongs or something like that. But if there were, we would certainly be insisting that any participants and any clients abide by all safety guidelines, because at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than that. So that is the end of our presentation. And with that, I will open it up if there are any questions.
Thanks, Amy. We've had a couple questions come in, but if any have popped up, you can submit them in the Q&A section, or the chat section works as well. So one of the first questions is, can you expand more on why you think remote qualitative is better right now?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously it's remote. So right now, that really works. All of the issues and concerns about being face-to-face and safety and spreading of germs is just eliminated. And because we can do research that's asynchronous, which is I ask a question and people log in and answer later that day when they have time, or synchronous, which is, we can set up a video and agree that we're going to meet at a certain time. We kind of can get any sort of feedback we need without any of those fears of safety. And also because people can do it from their homes, whereas they may not be interested or have the ability or the bandwidth right now to come out and leave their kids with someone and come to a focus group. That's not an issue when it's all online.
Right. Another question is, do you personally feel that remote interviews lead to more honest answers in comparison to face-to-face interactions?
That's an interesting question. I kind of do. I think there's something about having people in their own space, in their own home, and especially right now, again, as like kids are popping through the screen, it's hard to put up a lot of artifice right now. So I think there may be something to the idea that when people are really in a comfortable and familiar space, their answers are even more honest. And we all have had to, I'm not in an office setting either, and I think that puts people at ease right now. But even if I were, I think the feeling of being in their own space and in their own home gives them a certain level of comfort. And certainly, of course, when you can be one-on-one with someone, that also adds a level of comfort, or in small groups versus, like a focus group setting where I think people are often worried about the group dynamic.
Right. Another question is, this is a unique situation we're in. So how do you see the consumer behavior you're witnessing today make an impact on tomorrow, considering no one really knows tomorrow? People are in a new situation and they might have bad days compared to normal with kids and other things. So how do you think you would neutralize the responses you're getting?
I mean, that's a great question. And of course, that's a question all the time. I mean, people's lives are going on all the time, and you can have a bad day at work and step into a focus group and maybe be in a bad mindset, even if coronavirus isn't a concern. So I think that's something for, good moderators and researchers to think about all the time. In this particular time, I think we try very hard to establish rapport with people, to let them know that we know these are strange times, to, sometimes share slightly more personal details than we would. Yes, I've got kids at home too. I understand the noise. That's like, don't worry about that. And we do also couch questions sometimes in ways that either have people looking forward or looking back, because this is such a strange time. So we may say to someone, thinking back to 3 months ago before we changed our behavior due to coronavirus, how were you doing this or thinking about this or using this product? Looking forward to a year from now and assuming that we're all back to some level of normal, how do you imagine you might use this category or engage with this product? So there are a bunch of tactics, but the truth is, it is a strange time. And so we do our best to engage people and get honest and real feedback. But whether some of these things will change in a few months because everything is changing, I can't say more than anyone else here can. It is a strange time, but we are seeing people be very creative and very engaged and very interested in talking with us as a part of the strangeness.
Right. Another question is, some say that we're on our way to the economy of trust, brand trust that is, and COVID-19 accelerated the process. Do you feel that brand trust is now key or priorities for the people you talk to?
I do. I think there are certain products, brands, categories that are just getting an automatic level of trust right now because people feel like they don't have a lot of choice, right? Lysol, Purell, Amazon, things that are just literally allowing people to lead their normal lives right now are getting a certain amount of trust de facto. And then I think everything else is really up for grabs. And I think that the way that brands are responding, either in terms of showing their concern for local communities, ensuring that people are safe, responding to the riots, all of those things now are people have a lot of time to sit and ponder and decide what they're going to buy and where they're going to put their dollars aside from the staples. And so I do think that brand trust right now is probably harder to win and more important than it has been in other times.
Right. Another question kind of related to that. Going forward, do you think that you can decouple COVID and social unrest when conducting research?
You know, I do think that people's worries about COVID are very much about health and safety. Like, it's health and safety. It's, can I keep my kids healthy? When are we going to get back to work? Do I have to keep washing my hands 100 times a day? Is there going to be a vaccine? And then I think there's a whole other and very enormous set of questions about social inequities, about racial equality, about the state of our country politically. And of course, those two things are happening simultaneously. But I don't think right now there's a ton of talking about the two of them side by side, except, boy, these are two crazy things happening at the same time. I do think people's fears and worries about them are kind of on, they kind of are focusing on different things. What will happen in the next few weeks as we see potential increases in numbers of outbreaks, and whether those are tied at all to the fact that people have been close together and protesting, I don't know. I don't know if we'll start to see a confluence of those. As of right now, it seems like people are thinking about them somewhat separately.
Right. I think this is the last question we got, and this one's a little loaded. I'm not sure we're the experts to answer this, but maybe you can kind of talk about it as far as market research goes. Someone asked, when do you think we'll reach the new normal in the US? How many days, weeks, / months away is it?
Yeah, I can't. Boy, if I knew that, I think I'd be very, very popular. I don't know the answer to that. I think probably all of us think it's a long ways out till we feel like we reach some sense of stability and stasis. I don't know what that is in terms of, I certainly don't think it's days or weeks. I don't know how many months. I think in terms of research, again, I think people are really happy to engage right now. I think there are certain types of research that we think we would recommend holding off. I wouldn't recommend doing a consumer segmentation study right now because people are in flux in their buying behavior and their attitudes. But I think, like, trying to look out to 6 months and gauge whether there's still interest in new product ideas or messaging or those things still make sense to do now, and get a pulse on people and see what they're thinking and feeling. And I think there's certainly lots of opportunity to do that. But bigger things that are meant to be your long-term underpin study for the next 2 years of your strategy need to be really carefully calibrated at the moment. That's for sure.
Great. Looks like we did have one last question, so then we'll wrap up on this. Do you have any recommendations on how brands in general should position themselves in regards to COVID? There's a divide between people recommending not taking a stand for risk of being opportunistic and recommendations of being there for the customers.
So I'll tell you that when we started doing this study and we asked people, like, what are you hearing from businesses and how do you feel about those messages? There was a lot of, like, I've gotten the same email from every single business telling me that they're keeping their workers safe and they're sanitizing, and, like, I don't want another one of those emails. And I would say the same stands now. Like, just saying to people, we're sanitizing things and we're wearing masks, like, don't bother. I mean, I think you have to do those things if you're going to have people coming into your establishment, or you're going to be sending things to people and you want them to feel safe. You have to have that information available to them. But I don't think that's a message to broadcast. I think if you can take a unique spin on either showing people how you're going above and beyond, bringing them some level of comfort or delight, like that commercial I mentioned with the dogs at home, and that also gave an opportunity to talk about when you're buying things online, how MasterCard secures your information. If you can take a unique spin, bring people some delight, give them a measure of comfort, show them you're doing something in the local community to provide support, then go for it. If you're just going to tell them, hey, we're sanitizing, I don't think that's worth, broadcasting. I think that's not a unique enough message. It's not going to break through, and it's just table stakes at this point.
Right. Well, with that, it looks like we've answered everyone's questions. Amy, thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. If you have additional questions, you can see my email right here. I'm happy to try to answer.